Welcome to the All Things Circular podcast, your gateway to the circular economy. Hosted by industry experts, Victoria Darcy and Rich Bolger. Every episode is proof that circularity isn't just good for the planet. It's a smart business decision. Our mission is simple: to empower, to inform, and to show you how to make the circular economy work for you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last in season 1 of the All Things Circular podcast. I'm Vic Darcy.
I'm Rich Bolger.
And I'm Damian.
And welcome to All Things Circular.
Absolutely. This is going to be such a great one for us to finish on because we actually get to introduce the fourth and final member of our team to our viewers and our listeners. And Damian, we're going to get you to introduce yourself, but first of all, we wouldn't be here without Damian. He is a content producer extraordinaire. He's a vlogger. He's the one that's been technically keeping us on point. And really, my heartfelt thanks to you. But one thing about Damian that is, people forget is he's not just a content producer. He's not just a marketer. He's a really, really successful businessman. He's a very successful liquidator. I
found Damian online too. I call him a legend of LinkedIn, social media content extraordinaire. And Damian swam in different circles than that you and I swam in. With the Nice Fine wholesale company that he led, he also had a very successful YouTube video channel that went through and taught people how to go through and find deals in pallets and sell different products in different categories. We've talked a lot all season long about how in reverse logistics, there's a Venn diagram. There's more similarities and differences. But when I was getting approached about finding homes for different product types, I found Damian online. And I actually saw a video of him going to the ASD show in Vegas. And I booked a flight. I needed to head out that way anyway, just to meet Damian. And one of my most favorite interviews that I've ever had on camera is with the Damian Polak. So Damian, it's good to have you on this side of the camera instead of behind it for a change. Would you like to introduce yourself to our friends at All Things Circular?
I'm not sure how I can follow that up. You guys just, wow, you really, really built me up there. So appreciate the kind words and honor to be here, honor to be part of the team. Super happy to be the fourth member, the one that's keeping you guys aligned because you guys have a lot of crazy ideas and it's a lot of go-getters on this team. And somebody's got to be there to keep everybody aligned and in check because the content game, it's all fun and games, and producing podcasts is a lot of fun, but it's a lot of hard work too. So hats off to you guys because season 1 is ending with a bang. I think we did a killer job on season 1, and season 2 is already in the works, being edited and produced as we speak. So good job, guys. Just super happy to be on part of this team. I am a liquidator at heart. I think that's how we met, Rich and Vic. We met through content, but I met everybody through LinkedIn, right? So content has always been my, hobby and passion, but liquidation has always been my day job. And without content, I probably wouldn't be as good of a liquidator. And without liquidations, I wouldn't be as good of a content creator. So they go hand in hand, and I'm happy to provide my services to the All Things Circular team, and really, really excited about what this team is going to accomplish.
That's great. What's really interesting for me, and Damian and I spent some time together when we were recording on location last week in Vegas, so it's probably why we all look a little bit jaded. Liquidation is a really key part of circularity, and I think it gets missed. So if to kick things off, because I really would like, Damian, please take us through where liquidation sits in the supply chain and why it needs to be elevated actually as part of the solution. It just happens to be the end station of the solution. It's not a lower station. It's linear in terms of it's the end station. It's needed as part of this circular strategy that we work within.
Right. I think you nailed it by saying it's needed. I started off by being a reseller, right? That is like the most basic form, I guess, of flipping and getting into the liquidation space. You start off by a couple of pallets. You start off by buying some truckloads. I start off by opening up a bin store. And when
What's a
I
bin
did,
store? Explain to people what a bin store is.
a bin store is a
The
very,
American terminology as well, right?
yeah, a bin store is a fun concept. It's a retail discount store that runs primarily on small general merchandise, kind of high piece count deals. The stores specialize in just pretty much discounting everything to the bottom of the dollar price. But it starts off at like a $10 range on the first day it opens, and then throughout the week it drops to 4, 5, 6, whatever it might be, up to down to 50-cent day or a dollar day. And at the end of that day, at the end of that cycle, all the inventory gets cleared out and the cycle gets restarted again by dumping more inventory into the store. So that's how I really, really stumbled into this liquidation space. And, I went to ASD, I went to the Reverse Logistics Association show, essentially to find more supply. And when I was looking for more supply, when I was looking for merchandise to sell in my store, I've realized that, like Vic, you just pointed out, that I'm just a very small piece of the puzzle. There's a lot of moving pieces in the liquidation space, but also, liquidation space has many legs, and then the reverse logistics has many legs, and then the supply chain has many legs. And the more I learned about it, the more I found it to be very, very interesting. And I just wanted to learn more. And I guess that's why I'm here, because I did learn about the circular business model and how it's changing, and it's the economy is no longer going to be reliant on the linear structures of things. It's going to have to be a circular loop. And especially after this RLA, I'm even more behind this concept, just because it's essential. There's no way, like, companies need to think of the whole process throughout, when it goes forward to the customer, all the way till when it gets returned, till it gets refurbished, to all of those aspects need to be thought through before this product is even launched onto the market. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
We talked a lot about the product lifecycle loop, and the product lifecycle loop has an infinity shape to it, where moving towards the point of use is forward logistics. It's the nature of how forward works, moving from a point to the next point. And then when it's no longer needed by the customer, then it goes through the reverse side, moving away from the point of use, hence the other side of the loop, through asset recovery, getting product back, operations, assessing functional and cosmetic, refurbishing and restoring if needed, and then getting to value generation. Using the term is at the end of the linear point. In a circular economy, the end of the traditional linear point is the beginning of the product's next use as it moves through forward logistics to the next customer. Vic, you and I have cut our teeth primarily in electronics, a little bit of accessories in my Verizon days, some of the product that could have found its way into bin stores. But the whole concept of you need to have multi-layers of how you generate value. Reusing what you can is new. Selling directly to the next customer is another way to go. Reusing for warranty has its own equations of benefit. But the bin store concept at scale, especially for smaller retailers where it's not a highly valuable, highly durable good, things like overstocks, pullbacks, some returns could find their way into the bin store. But the concept that Damian had of having a store that gets pallets of things, breaks them down, and then one day sells product for $10 and then drops it to a lower price point the next day. And if you look at some of the videos that Damian had posted, you see people line up out the door like it's an American Idol audition for the first day, because they want to go through. It's like a garage sale. Be the first to go through and touch and pick to find the diamonds and the coal. And it's a good way to liquidate all product to get ready for the next shipments that need to come in. Candidly, before I knew Damian, I didn't really understand the bin store concept, but how it relates to the value generation point in a product's reverse and circular life cycle is a very important part, because that's where supply gets matched with next demand. So Damian, how did you fall into this space? You're right, it's a natural progression point, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that your degree is in finance. Are you really
Accounting.
a recovering
I'm an accountant.
finance person?
I'm a recovering CPA wannabe.
That's how you put recovery.
Yeah, so I guess I'll tie back into what Vic asked me too, because I totally did not answer her first question. Was what, what is liquidation, right? It is value generation. That's how I started to look at it. And what started off as a bin store, a tool to make a profit. That's what I seen it as first. And then once I learned about the circular economy and once I learned about reverse logistics, I started looking at it as a value generation tool, right? And the bin stores that I guess followed that concept of value generation versus trying to milk profit are now still standing and successful. Because, so let me take you guys through some concepts here. A traditional bin store would take, seasonal overstock, liquidated products, and dump it out into the on the tables, on the bins for customers to dig through. The concept being that you're going to save a lot of money by saving costs on labor, by not sorting the product, by not doing much to that product other than buying it, dumping it, and trying to cash flow as much as humanly possible off the items that are found on that table. That started to really not produce the best results as it could have once the competition got fierce and prices of the product went up, because now the manufacturers, the brands, and the retailers that were selling off this product to these bin stores and liquidators realized that, now we finally have a value generation tool on our end where we can recover significant cash back into our businesses by the seasonal and the return product that we would typically dump and pretty much send to landfills or recycle or some sort of a cost center, right? It would always be a pile up in the warehouse of seasonal items, of overstock, of things that just didn't sell well in the retail environment, or for the expired products, just thousands of different reasons why a product might be taking up space in the back of a warehouse and just loses all its value to the retailer, the original retailer, the big box stores that I'm talking about. And then the bin stores showed up on site, and they were able to take that product that everybody saw as a net zero, as a total loss, as a negative number on their books. They were able to not only buy it back from them, but they were able to now profit on it themselves, which created that second life that Rich is talking about. And then what I saw happen a lot of the times now is that, the bin store, being me, would sell this product, and then resellers would come into the store, buy up this product, and then relist it on eBay. So this is they would just keep going. And then, so it was just a beautiful thing to watch, because this was not a thing. This was always a loss leader for retailers, a loss leader for manufacturers, for 3PLs sitting on product that was just considered dead stock. Now, here come a bunch of scrappy entrepreneurs that open up 5,000 to 20,000 square foot stores, and now are able to take what was be a loss, provide that retailer a $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 check or wire, and now create value times 3, right? Because now they're able to profit, and they're able to do it over and over and over again, and so can their customers. So yeah, it was just a beautiful concept, and I really, really fell in love with liquidation at that point, because I realized that the bin store was just a stepping stone for me, and I could do a lot more in the space if I just understood it better, and if I understood the product journeys and the customer journeys that I could provide. So what started out as buying that, the cheapest of the stuff I could possibly find to run through that $1, $2 retail model, to like somebody's liquidating mattresses. Like, all right, so how do I get rid of mattresses? Well, these mattresses, I don't want to use brand names, I don't want to get in trouble on our own podcast here, but let's say a $2,000 mattress now at a Macy's, now they can no longer be sold, because now they have a brand new model for next year, and they just can't compete with the same price point with the 2 different models, same brand. So now I have to get rid of it, right? And that mattress would now get liquidated. And now it's being sold at 20% of MSRP on the back end. And all I would have to do is find a retailer or an outlet for that mattress somewhere else, away from the original retailer, where it could be sold to a crowd of people that doesn't really care to have the best new thing out on the market. So yeah, hopefully that answered that two of those questions at the same time.
It does, and I'm going to hit you with a three-parter.
Nice. Let's keep Damian rambling. My favorite.
Well, no, because you touched on so many elements there, but each one is really quite unique. So I think there is a misconception about liquidation, and I think it's underutilized. So the first part is, why do you think it's underutilized? Based on some of those cases that you just gave us those examples of there. And the second one is, you mentioned two there. You mentioned the bin store concept, particularly with seasonal goods. And the pricing and the strategy of how you sell that is very different to how you would sell a $2,000 mattress. So it's the expertise that's then required to the various different items that you get in that I'm guessing you can't predict. And the final one goes back to the manufacturer. So I suppose it's linked to the first one, which is the underutilization point, is when should a business liquidate versus refurbishing, or versus their own sell-off sale, or, putting it through their own circular, if they have them, sales channels? So what point is that market triggered? So 3 points. So why is it underutilized? What are the expertise required to sell certain things? And, what's the trigger for a manufacturer?
Right. So let me start off with the first part. Product knowledge is everything. And it goes very, very deep, because every category, every model, every single item is going to be way, way different. And every situation is going to be different. What, a mattress could be sold for at Macy's versus a Best Buy versus a Target is complete three different things, because they serve three different customer types. And then same thing with the discount model. There is discount model, a thrift store can be considered a discount store, right? We could export the product out to South America and extract value there. There's millions of things that a product could go on the journey. Let me back up. There's millions of things you can do with the product to find the biggest value creation and cost recovery for each product individually. To answer the second question is, there is no black and white answer. There is not a single yes or no answer that when should a product go into liquidation versus refurb versus all that. That's kind of where experts like you and Rich come in, and me, I guess. Yeah. You have to look at all the selling channels that you're currently utilizing. You have to learn, what kind of resources does your company have? Do you have a refurb team, right? If you don't have a refurb team, is it worth for you to outsource that and ship it out to a recycler or refurbisher, right? Is the product in California and your closest refurb center in New Jersey? Because now you're adding a lot of freight costs. I mean, is that efficient? So every situation is going to differ. And that's why, this business is becoming a thing where you need to bring in experts to help you understand not only what you actually have, but to actually how to extract the value out of those products as best and as efficiently as possible.
It's one of the beautiful things about the secondary market, and really why the secondary market works, is because different people become experts and specialize in product to different areas. Selling into Mexico is different than selling into Australia. What is in season now is going to be in season in a different part of the world in two seasons. So if you have that connection, you can go through and extract value. Vic, in the US, there's a television show called Pawn Stars. Have you ever heard of that? They have that in the UK? No.
So I grew up watching that. So I didn't watch cartoons. I watched American Pickers and Pawn Stars. So there might be a theme here.
So with Pawn Stars, and we were in Vegas, I still want to go, but it's this shop, a pawn shop, where people come in and they've got all this crazy stuff, and they're like, "What would you give me for it?" So I remember one time someone brought in a autograph record album of the Beatles. Yeah. So, and there was two things Rick could have done. Rick is the owner of the pawn shop. He could have looked at that person and said, all right, this thing can sell for $50,000. I'm going to give you 45 for it. Or he could say, this thing can sell for $50,000. I'm going to give you 25,000 for it. And the amount that he would be willing to give would be contingent upon, did he have a buyer for that thing right now? Because if you could buy it for 45, flip it for 50 and get that $5,000 immediately, that is an entirely different value prop than buying it for 25, hoping you can sell it for 50, but having your money tied up until you find that buyer and have to pay commissions and other things. So when you list a product on the secondary market, a pallet of t-shirts, there are going to be some companies that are great at selling t-shirts and they've got marketplaces and shopping stores all over the world. They'll pay a little bit more. Or there are going to be people that will get that list and say, well, I've got to figure it out. Let me go through and throw a lowball list and see if it comes in and then try to figure it out. So as these market players start developing their own love language of what products they feel comfortable with and where they're able to go through and addict people to their supply of products, there's strength that takes place in the secondary market by category. So when Damien is talking about how it's different, those are some of the elements. Damien, I remember one video that you had of party supplies. And I think that was a good classic experience. Had you ever sold party supplies before you made that purchase?
No, I have not. I've heard about them. Party City had a big distribution center down the road from us, and I drove by it every single day. And I'm like, oh, I just know they got stuff they don't need anymore. I just know it. But it wasn't a Party City supply load. It was just a party brand, I guess, that was sitting inside of a 3PL. The 3PL called me and said that, hey, they stopped paying their bills. They're going bankrupt, belly up, and we have all this product, but we also need to recover some build costs. What can you do here for us, right? So I bought 200,000 units of party supplies. And it's completely unmanifested, no idea what's going on. Thousands of balloons and thousands of, just decorations and cake thingies and just sticks and toothpicks. Like
cake thingies is a technical term,
cake
I believe.
Thingies, yes. All sorts of different, I call them tchotchkes. I don't even know what that word means, but it's just the randomness of the random. And, that is a perfect example of how liquidation can create value, because now this product, when it first started, that was a $4.99 to $7.99 MSRP value to begin with, right? And now we're talking about 40,000 units per truckload. That not only somebody has already lost a bunch of money on by manufacturing and producing, and now the storage costs that were required, and now transportations. There's a lot of money tied up in it, and it wasn't a lot to begin with. So it's a $4.99 balloon pack. How do you make money on that? So it just took a lot of grit and a lot of, phone calling and selling off to people that I knew could benefit from this stuff. And we had to think outside the box because, some of the balloons could go to dollar stores, and now they could put it up on their shelves, right, for a deal. A lot of the things that we got were gift boxes. So there was around 20 or 30,000 units of gift boxes that I figured, well, what if we found a 3PL that does packing and shipping? And instead of trying to treat this as a retail product, why don't we treat this as a shipping box product, AKA shipping supplies? So it was just, you have to take a step back and look at it, kind of rearrange it, reshuffle it, see where value can be created and how can everybody along this supply chain win. So with the idea of the shipping supplies, it was pretty easy, right? Like, hey, these are very simple 8x8 by 4 boxes, and there's 30,000 units of these. If somebody's buying them off Uline or wherever they get their shipping supplies, and they're paying $4 a unit per box, and they're sending thousands of orders out a day. If I give it to them for $1, I mean, they're going to be happy as a clam. I mean, it's just a win-win-win. And yeah, that's exactly what happened. We just started splitting it off, and trying to find ways where we can provide value to other people, and other companies, I guess. Another example of something like this would be watermelon gaylords, or those potato gaylords, that grocery stores get their fruit and vegetables delivered in, right?
What's a gaylord?
So, gaylord is a very, very big cardboard that goes on top of the pallet. Usually, 3 to 6 feet high. It's just a big box with an open top that you can store stuff in. So it doesn't
if you
fall
go
off
to
the pallet.
the grocery store and you see one of those cases, watermelon being
Right.
put into a spot on the floor with walls so it doesn't spill, is a gaylord.
Right. And from the perspective of the retailer, of the grocer, that gaylord it's just garbage. They're interested in selling the watermelon, right? Everybody has a different objective in business. The grocer is interested in selling the watermelon for a profit. They see the gaylord as a cost center at that point, because they're going to have an employee pick it up and either shred it or cut it up and put it in a dumpster, or now pay a recycling fee to get this picked up, or whatever it might be. It is a hassle and an issue, right? So what we did with a couple of grocery stores around us is like, hey, we just make us a pile. I'll pick these up from you. I'll give you $1. And then we would go out and resell them, because I knew that liquidators need the gaylords to sort stuff. So you see what I'm saying? Now it's a win-win-win for everybody. Now the liquidator doesn't have to buy brand new cardboard gaylords for $15 a unit. Now they can call Damian and get them for $3, and I make $2 a unit, and the grocery store saves $10 because they don't have to put the employee hours in and the recycling fees and everything else in between. So that's liquidation for me, and that's where like I said, I fell in love with it, because it's a win-win business. Everybody along the supply chain can win, and as long as you're thinking outside the box, which brings me back to my accounting roots, I was not allowed to do, and as an accountant that doesn't, loves to think outside the box, I could get in a lot of trouble. So I knew I had to switch industries, and liquidation was just the perfect fit.
See, I love that, because what Damian just described there isn't just unique to liquidation. When I worked in remanufacturing at Cisco, one thing about remanufacturing is that it isn't, you don't manufacture, you can't necessarily predict the inbound. So one of the tactics that we used was we'd switch sell, which is just what you described there. So if you had a demand for a 24 port switch, but you had 48 in stock, you'd switch it. Same switch, number of ports went up. The customer actually got a better product for the same price, fundamentally. And it's just talking there about that pivot. And I think it's a great strategy that businesses really need to understand, is that there is expertise in this sphere about extracting the most value, because even though it's called liquidation, it's a value chain, it's value back, and you're taking something that was potentially a cost for the business, the gaylord being a perfect example, and turned it actually into revenue. Small, it doesn't matter, but you also took a problem away, and you took unnecessary recycling. Because this is the other point that I think we really need to recognize and to understand, is that liquidation keeps things out of waste streams. And I want to go back to the party supplies, and I want to go back to the seasonal goods. Look at the products look at the materials that they're generally made from. They're not generally environmentally friendly materials. They're cheap. They're mass produced. It's the very worst of the single use stuff, really. And by having this strategy, it means that they haven't been produced for nothing. They've actually gone on to a useful life, which to me is why all these elements of the sales cycle are actually, I think, Damian, you and I were talking about it last week. It's a train going through multiple stations, and liquidation is a station on that train journey, and it needs to be there. And I think that one thing I'd really like us to do within the All Things Circular ecosystem is to encourage those manufacturers and those vendors and those stores that don't have liquidation strategies to get one. It's not the end of the cycle. It's necessary to complete that loop on circularity.
Well, if we can go back to the question, Vic, that you asked about how does this product become available? In managing a business, your people who make things generate pallets of stuff, and they sell it to distributors who break it down into units of one and sell it to the end customer. When things are returned, there's different compositions, and the compositions vary depending upon where you're at in the forward supply chain and where you're at in the reverse supply chain. Manufacturers will get a lot of the same things back if they authorize a large return. Distributors will get a lot of things back from different people one at a time. And how they're sorted and presented could be different. But there's some return flows that you naturally want to drive down. Someone buying something and you give them their money back. No one wants to really do that. Or trade-in that you want to drive up. But most of what I saw from Damian's didn't come from circular returns where you're trying to drive things up. A manufacturer could have a overstock customer promise, because a lot of the supply comes from a sales failure. I sold you 100 things. You only needed 10 of them. What am I going to do with the other 90? Or I sold you all these things. We put them out to make these beautiful displays for Easter, which is coming up. But once Easter's over, now there's a challenge. But you put those things in the store as a business leader to sell and generate revenue. And that's a key component. There's returns, like we talked about, overstock. There's job outs, Easter ending, meaning the seasonality is over, as a job out. You no longer need that product for how it was marketed in that season. There's buyouts. Other companies will go in, take a look at their competitors' stuff and say, I want that shelf space. So, Mr. Distributor, I know it's moving slow. I'll give you 10 cents on the dollar for it to basically buy my product's space in a retail store to generate revenue. And all of those things have a root in sales. Now, to mitigate the cost, you can either write all of it off as a loss and throw it away, which is wasteful, or you can try to find companies like what Damian ran with Nice Fine Wholesale to extract value for the product. So as you're going through as a retailer, understanding AI and ML are getting people a little bit better at forecasting, minimizing waste, which is reducing the supply in the market, and that increases the price for the secondary market providers. In addition to that, there's more secondary market suppliers that are coming in wanting that stuff, which increases demand. And that's where this market's starting to mature to. But it's incumbent upon businesses to realize that the presence of this supply is a sales and marketing failure. You forecasted too much, or people didn't want what they wanted, and your choice is, do you throw it away or do you extract value for it? But if you put nothing in the stores, you have nothing to sell, so you miss revenue. So there's this huge balancing act that takes place, which creates a need for what Damian has been really successful at.
Right. And as a co-host on this podcast, I'm going to challenge Rich's idea here, because there's also reasons why liquidators provide a service of, because sometimes just shit happens, for a lack of a better word. A semi-truck tips over on the highway. Who's going to pick that product up? Well, you know, it's a bunch of spilled things. You know, clothing got dirty. You can't really put it on your shelf anymore. You probably have to either reorder it or, you know, get some new stuff in. And who's going to take it off the highway? I mean, typically a liquidator. So if there's any liquidators that are listening, that is a great opportunity to get product for very, very cheap. It's usually some sort, you have to get hooked up with some sort of like an insurance claim process. But, you know, insurance companies now end up with these products, and what do they do with it? And it was to no fault of anybody other than it's an opportunity buy. And these opportunities exist. You just have to be really active in the market and know what you want and what to look for and what kind of service you can actually provide and the value you can generate for people and other companies.
Interesting. So the other thing I wanted to bring up here was not to sweat the asset, right? Because it's on a one-way journey of value, and that value is going down. We all know, though Damien and I have an active kind of fish, don't we, at the moment, where the asset's just been left for too long. And then translating that back to the asset owner who's sitting there going, well, why is it depreciated to such a huge value? It's the same product. It's just like, yes, it is, but it's 3 years older than it should be to hit the market that you wanted it to hit, because you've paid to keep it warm and dry for 3 years.
Right.
So there's added costs, there's operational costs on top of actually the asset cost. And then at the end of it, the customer's then really looking at a hot mess. And I understand it. It's because a lot of times customers are still depreciating these assets off their books, right? I get it. And it becomes that argument is, if you've expensed it, that's one thing. If you're amortizing it, that's another. But there is the value within the asset itself changes. And I think that's something that, hopefully over the course of this podcast, we're going to help educate people on, is, that these aren't static figures.
No, and value goes, usually it keeps going down, unfortunately, unless you're talking collectibles, right? But value is an interesting thing, because value can also be created. And I think that is a concept that a lot of liquidators are really, I would say, falling behind on. A lot of them are doing it well, but a lot of them are not. And to Rich's point before, where, it's different seasons in Australia versus Mexico at different times of the year, right? And I mean, even simpler than that, same thing with, Seattle and Florida, right? Flip-flops in Florida are worth a lot more and can be moved a lot faster than flip-flops in the middle of Minnesota in December, right? So these type of things matter, and value can be created by just being efficient and really clever with logistics, pretty much, and operations.
Well, going through, Damien, we've recorded multiple episodes now. Some haven't been released. I'm very excited for the launch of season 2 coming up, that we're going to bring to our audience live from the Reverse Logistics Association show in Vegas. But one of the common questions, as you know, that we like to ask our friends that come on,
I forgot.
is what is one thing that is a common misperception, a myth that is not grounded in factual reality? What would you like to bust?
A myth that I'd like to bust. I probably should have been prepared with this question, given that I've been part of 30 episodes. Oh man. Okay. Now I'm sweating. But, I think I started my YouTube channel to bust myths. That was like that was a big thing. There is so many misconceptions, misinformation out on the internet. To begin with, there's not a lot of information out on the internet about liquidations, about returns, about the industry that we're kind of a part of. There's not a lot of internet information out there. And the information that can be found out there is a lot of the times misleading, right? And I don't want to point fingers, but it's usually misleading in favor of the person that's feeding it out, because now they're going to be able to sell more stuff at a higher margin and act like everything is super gated and behind closed doors. It is an industry where a lot of things do happen behind the scenes, because, all right, here's my myth. So I don't think things are kept behind closed doors, but they're not kept behind closed doors for the reason that everybody thinks. Everybody thinks it's because I'm going to keep it behind closed doors so my best friends could profit, because we've been doing this for years, and oh yeah, this guy likes this guy, so he's going to hook it up. No, it's kept behind closed doors to extract the most value and do it the most efficiently. The minute a deal or something goes online, or it gets, blasted out to 10,000 people and 10,000 parties, now that one person in that reverse logistics department has to have 10,000 conversations with a bunch of tire kickers that aren't going to be able to execute, right? There's people that have a proven track record in certain categories and certain things that they do that are going to execute a lot better and faster than you can. So that's one thing. And another thing I'd like to say is that there is a ton, kept reiterating this, that there's a ton of misinformation on the internet. And that was the point of my YouTube channel that I no longer own, unfortunately. But that is the point of this podcast as well. And I'm excited for All Things Circular to keep putting out good information, valuable information. And we're going to keep expanding. A little foreshadowing here. We're going to put out more articles. We're going to put out more information. We're going to find you books that you can get educated on, because this is a brand new industry with not a lot of trade shows, not a lot of conferences that you can attend, not a lot of people that you can talk to. But the information is there and it's available. You just have to dig really, really deep, but we're going to try to make it easier and more accessible. So that's the myth I'm trying to bust. More information, less misinformation.
So I got one for both of you. So we're drawing season 1 or series 1 for us Brits to an end. We've got 8, or we've released 8 episodes. Thank you to all of our 8 guests. Honestly, thank you for coming with us on this journey. We've had some really engaging conversations. But to Rich, to Damian, what's been your favorite part? And these guys know I'm going to ask this question. So, what's been your favorite part of series 1, and what's been your most frustrating part of series 1? Because it's been a learning curve like that.
Rich, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of favorites. I would have to say that, Vic, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and there's a huge need. So, watching your courage to go through and help get this going, and Damian, your curiosity and your drive, it's been a pleasure being on your team. I would say I really enjoyed flying to the UK, Vic, and spending time with you and your family in Manchester and doing the first few episodes live. We had a fantastic conversation with great fun and fellowship, and it was just really nice to get started. The thing I think we can get better on, which is going to be no surprise to the two of you, is the technical aspects, which I can't say is probably not uncommon for people who do what we do.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off that. The technical difficulties have just been outrageous. And, I've been doing this whole content thing for several years now, and it's just doesn't get better. I don't understand. Like, there's so much technology out there. There's so much electronic things you can buy and money you can spend on subscriptions. And unfortunately, it's not easy. The technical difficulties are probably my least favorite part. Also the editing. I hate editing. It sucks. Shout out to the editing team that helps me out with this, but I still, I'm still a very big part of it. And editing is just not fun. I just call it the accounting of marketing. It really is. It's just so nuancey. It's very repetitive, and the attention to details got to be there. And those are everything that I did not like about my previous career. My favorite part, though, hands down, has been just meeting everybody. I mean, that's a given. I feel like I'm a natural networker, natural connector, and I love to learn. And the people that we have had on this podcast have really opened my eyes and allowed me to kind of deep dive into things that I was always curious about, but didn't realize how deep they really go. And then this knowledge base just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. And meeting everybody and learning from them has been just a pleasure. And working with you guys, of course, it's been a blast.
Well, Vic, I know we have a hard stop in just a couple minutes, but bring us home. Bring us home on season 1.
Oh, gosh. I mean, what a journey. So this started with a phone call between Rich and I last summer where I'd had a scatty brainwave and said, let's do a podcast. And phoned Rich said, come on this journey with me. And, in fairness to you, Rich, and in fairness to your unwavering curiosity, but also your want and desire to do new things, he said, yes, all right then. So, between Rich and I, between Damian and Peter, the 4 of us have, come together from kind of different areas to hopefully bring our audience perspectives on circularity, but also the reasons why we're doing it. We're doing it to create a better planet. We're doing it to create value chains. We're doing it to keep products out of landfill. And we want to help educate. But this is not just for big OEMs. This is for, small guys. This is for single providers. It takes a collective. And it takes a collective to make a change. And if we can help give you some of those skills, that will be the purpose of this podcast. So first of all, thank you for listening. Thank you for coming on the journey. It's been very funny. I'll tell you one very funny anecdote. Damian said to me about 3 weeks ago, because you and Rich have got professional equipment and you're not professionals. Which just gives you an idea of the level of frustration from the technical side.
I'm on that boat.
I know. But looking forward to season 2. Season 2 was all done in person in Las Vegas. Damian was on site, so the technical issues weren't really there.
There was some.
You know,
I got home and there was some. So, but we're good. We're good. We're fixing them as we speak. There's always
we've got
some.
Great content, you know, really great content. Actually, season 2 is going to be 14 episodes. This one's been 8. So first and foremost, thank you for coming on the journey. We hope you found it informative. Please get involved on our website. There's loads of content there. We'll be adding more. Subscribe if you don't mind, because, you know, the more traction we get, the more people we'll get to, and the more we can put these things on. So last thing is, you know, welcome to All Things Circular. This has been season 1. Thank you to everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Subscribe.
Thanks for tuning in. Please head over to allthingscircular.com to learn more.